You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
Good evening, folks. We are live. This is Jen and Rick. We are on KLRNradio.com. I want to give a quick shout-out and apology for the listeners of America Off the Rails this week. In between sick kids and new projects and crazy allergies, it's just been one of those weeks. However, we will have a live America Off the Rails tonight, and I will also, if I can stay awake long enough, do one tomorrow night after Robinson and Wright. Or maybe I might sneak one in before. Who knows? Actually, nope, never mind. The wife and I have plans, so there will be no sneaking in before, so it'll have to be after. All right, so without further ado, anyway, I am one half of the crew, Mr. Rick Robinson. She's the other half, Miss Jen Homestead. And how are you this evening, ma'am?
I'm doing all right. Just had a busy day and kind of winding down here, and just enough time to get worked up with you on air.
Nice. So, there's no winding down for me yet. I have this to do, another show, and then I just remembered I made plans with the wife a few minutes ago, so now I have another project I have to edit tonight before I can go to bed. Otherwise, I won't be able to keep the plans I just made with my wife. So yeah, fun times. So yeah, I'm back to feeling like I need 48-hour days. Am I the only one that feels that way? Because it just seems like there's not enough time in the day to get everything done that I want to be able to get done. And it's just meh.
Yeah, I was just telling some friends this was one of those not enough hours days. And especially one of those where you feel like you've done so much but accomplished so little. I always hate those. They're so discouraging. You're like, oh my gosh, I've been going nonstop, but why does it feel like I still have so much to do and I didn't get near enough done? That's kind of how it's been lately.
Seems like I've been having more and more of those lately. I guess maybe it's because I've gotten to the point where I'm back to working pretty much nonstop again. Because, I mean, the only day that I usually don't, or that I try to usually not do much of anything is Saturdays. And I'm still usually editing a couple hours worth of audio on Saturdays because I've even gotten to the point where Sunday's pretty much a full work day now. And I'm just like, as much as I enjoy doing all the stuff on the side, I really wish it would get to the point where I could transition to to doing that all the time and be able to get rid of the 8 hours that I feel like I'm killing myself in a cubicle at the day job. If I can make that happen, this would be worth it. But I can't ever seem to get there. So I feel like I'm working 3 full-time jobs, and there's just days when it's just like, bleh. And then, with my son having his truck broke down, we're back to only having 2 vehicles, and it's football season, and every time I turn around, he's needing to borrow one of the cars, and I'm just like, I don't like you driving the cars. Give me your own. It's not my fault you blew it up. No, I'm just playing. But anyway, so needless to say, I've been pretty scatterbrained for the last couple of days. I haven't been keeping up with much of the news, although interesting things have happened in California. Apparently, they look like the Democrats will have lost their supermajority for the first time in a long time in the state houses in California, which could be very interesting. The blue wave was more of a blue meh because there were still plenty of Republicans that made it to the top of the ticket, even though they were expecting a blue sweep. Now, these were only the primaries, so who knows, but the fact that I was still really hoping we'd get at least one that wound up being a red sweep, and we didn't get there. I was hopeful, because some people were telling me that we might, but it didn't happen. Made me sad.
No, but I think that this is encouraging, I don't really always buy into that, okay, one liberal state kind of had it go this way, which means all of the others will be similar, or we can make some sort of measure of it. I mean, I think it's a good indicator, and I think it's encouraging, and I think that kind of thing inspires people in blue states that are conservative or Republican to go to the polls because, oh, look, it kind of, it made a real difference in California, so it'll make a difference if I do, whereas a lot of times people get defeated in states that are pretty solidly one way or the other because they're just like, well, what does my vote matter? It's always going to be overwhelmingly Democrat. You know what I mean? So I do think that it's really good for that kind of situation and getting people a little bit more aware, and what they thought was just an automatic, not so much. And so it's a little bit inspiring, and it gives a good amount of hope for, possibly what we could see in the midterms instead of some sort of, like you said, blue wave coming at us. So hopefully so. Fingers crossed.
Sorry, helps if I'm not muted. Somehow I completely missed the red flashing light that says, hey, you can't talk right now. All right, so anyway, I don't know. I mean, it's been one of those weird political seasons, so I'm not going to say that, California is going to be a bit of any kind of a bellwether or anything. I think one of the things that encourages me the most about California, though, isn't even necessarily what's going on at the national level with them politically. It's more all of the states or the cities and the counties that are rising up against Governor Jerry Moonbeam Brown and all of his sanctuary state policies. That's what I was getting encouraged about, because it was like after one city just said, you know what, F this, we're not doing it. It's like everybody else around them said, hey, if they can tell him no, so can we. And that's part of what actually started making me wonder if there hasn't been a bit of an awakening in California. Now, again, unfortunately, it is California. The thing that scares me about California, because as you know, we have a friend who lives out there. Some of you may remember JD from the JD and Stacy show. He's actually in California right now running a company. And he actually took it upon himself as a bit of a project because he'd planned on returning to radio by now and just hasn't been able to find the time to squeeze it back in. So he's made it a bit of a project to go up to people that are, comfortable talking to him and specifically asking, who are your representatives and you know who the governor is, right? And they're like, yeah. And he's like, okay, so just honestly tell me, did you vote for any of these people that are currently representing you? And they're like, hell no. And he's like, dude, I'm not even kidding. He's like, dude, 9 out of every 10 people I ask all tell me they didn't even vote for these people. So either they're too embarrassed to admit they voted for them or something weird's going on out here because everybody I talk to says they don't even know how these people got elected.
Well, I mean, I do think that I don't know. There is a very more lackadaisical, even though it's Hollywood and everything, in Southern California, there's still a little bit of a, I'm trying to know how to explain this, where they're a little bit apathetic politically. So even though they're like progressive and they're kind of hippies and whatever, they kind of go along that line. They don't, it's not the same kind of like hardcore, like Northeastern blue state liberal, if you know what I mean, or even a San Francisco liberal. And I say this as someone who lived in Southern California multiple times throughout my life and for long periods of time. It is a different vibe in that area. And I think that, you do see a difference, especially in the way that some of their local governments are run compared to the state government. But some of it's just media hype, and people that don't really know vote for who the media says is good. And there are so many people in this country that do that. It's more than we want to think, that kind of go, okay, well, guess who gets the hype out there? The people who get the hype out there are the liberal Democrats, of course. So, that's who they're going to vote for. And even like a moderate Democrat will have a hard time challenging the liberal Democrat in a lot of places in California because, they're not going to get any love either. So I think that there's a lot of that going on. And plus, like I said, up towards San Francisco, in that whole area, you get a much more hardcore kind of blue activism, and they all show up. They all go to the polls. It's the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right there. I mean, who knows how it's actually going to turn out. I mean, because, this is one of those midterm primaries, and usually those do not go well for the incumbent party. But I still think there are a lot of really, really angry people that nobody's really taking into account again. And I know that the other side now is just as angry, but in my estimation, the other side is a lot more apoplectic than we are. So I don't really know if they're going to be motivated enough to go to the polls, especially since they don't even really seem to like most of the people that they're talking about voting for. They're just voting for them because they're not Trump.
Just had there. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we were having a bit of a technical issue, so I'm trying to clean it up.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
It should be cleaner now. Can you hear me any better now?
Yeah, you're good now.
Yeah, right as I started trying to do something, it started doing the Robbie the Robot thing, and I'm like, really? That's the whole reason I do the show on a server grade computer. The thing's got 32 gigs of RAM, and every once in a while it still decides that it doesn't have enough memory to do everything I'm trying to get it to do. Like, that's the reason why I bought a server grade computer to do this crap on. Give me a break. Anyway.
So anyway. I've got quite the bone to pick with Trump today.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, big time. So if you don't like any criticism of it, you might just want to fast forward for the next few minutes because he really,
I can't fast forward.
He really should have kept. Yeah. Well, I mean, not now, but if you're listening to this on podcast or whatever, or just turn it off for right now. But he really should have just shut the hell up today in some of what he was talking about Hurricane Harvey. He was on a conference call with leaders, preparing for hurricane season. And he thanked the Coast Guard for its service in helping save 16,000 people after Harvey, Hurricane Maria, and other storms. He says the Coast Guard doesn't get enough credit, and I actually agree with him on that. 16,000 people, many of them in Texas for whatever reason that is. People went out in their boats to watch the hurricane, and that didn't work out too well. So he thinks people needed saving in Texas because people went out in their boats to watch the hurricane. Not that they were out rescuing people in their boats, but they were out there watching them, and that's what didn't work out too well. So Harris County Sheriff Ed Gonzalez took umbrage with the remarks, saying that civilians, made an extraordinary effort with their boats to rescue neighbors, relatives, and pets, blah, blah, blah. 52 inches, remember, 52 inches of rain. And then it's like you don't even know how to respond to that. It made this kind of, he made another comment referring to that again later in the call, like people were storm watching, and that's why there were so many people that were stranded and needed to be saved, and about the boats, and we need to keep people from going out in their boats. And it's like, did he completely forget what happened there? Did he completely, or was he really not paying attention during all of that? The people that were out there in boats were not the people needing rescuing. The people out there in boats were the Cajun Navy and the Texas Navy and any number of hundreds of other private citizens who risked their own safety in order to go out on those boats and answer distress calls. And they coordinated with emergency services. They worked with the Coast Guard. They worked with local law enforcement. And they saved thousands of lives. I don't want to hear the excuses. I don't want to hear the justifications. It was a piss-poor comment. It was absolutely out of line. And it's asinine and insulting to the thousands of Texans that not only risked their lives to save their fellow Texans, but the ones that were rescued, and are so grateful to those people who went out there and braved the storm after, and there were safety measures taken. I was on some of the radio apps and things, and I kind of got in touch with a few people, and I don't know if y'all remember, but I was staying up like around the clock trying to help coordinate with people that, where their locations were. People had terrible cell service or batteries were dying. And so we're trying to limit what they had to use it for and communicate for them. They're reaching out to us through a tweet or sometimes a phone number. And there were measures taken that when, okay, they knew that a levee was going to break or it was going to breach the seawall, then they would not, they would retreat. They would pull back. The Coast Guard would advise, and even the Coast Guard wouldn't go out. So there were safety measures taken. Those people that were out there were not storm watching, storm chasing gawkers. They were actually saving lives.
I have to admit, I had been completely slammed at work today because we went back to training again, so I hadn't been able to keep up with anything news related, really, except for the stuff going on here locally. I had no idea he said that. The only thing I'm going to say about it is he seems to be confusing Texas and Okies, because we're the ones that go out and sit in lawn chairs with beers and watch tornadoes. But, that's not anywhere near the same thing.
Yeah, and it was the way in which it was like in Texas, for whatever reason that is. Like most of them were in Texas. Well, first of all, the majority of the coastline that was hit was in Texas. And second of all, it got hit harder than any of the other areas because of how it sat. And I know, like, for those that weren't affected by this very personally, it's hard to remember how incredible the flooding was. And the rain just would not stop. And floodwaters continued to rise forever after the hurricane was gone. So everyone was over the excitement of the hurricane because it had been dead and gone for 3 days, and they were still getting dumped on by the bucket load. 52 inches of rain in a matter of 48 hours is no joke, y'all. And it just wreaked havoc on the city. And to even flippantly, I don't even care if it was just off the cuff and he kind of whoops, but the flippant comment for me is just uncalled for and unnecessary. And I guarantee you that any of you, if Obama had dared say something like that, you would lose your ever-loving minds. And so I am, and I'm pissed, and I don't think that he can come back from this for me on this particular subject. There's no amount of apology that will be acceptable to me, because it was just absolute BS, and it put down a lot of really good people who went above and beyond the call of duty as civilians in order to save their brothers and sisters that were stranded and dying.
Yeah, it proves to me again that he really doesn't understand some of what was happening during that time frame. To make comments about the people that were out in boats and them being the people that were causing the problem, that couldn't be further from the truth. If not for those people that risked the rising tides and everything else, there probably would have been a lot more loss of life that day. So I have to admit, having heard about it, that actually really does upset me, because up until now, I haven't really had too much to be upset with him about. This is actually really
well, I
frustrating.
know, and I got a lot of people coming at me being like, oh, well, he was just doing this, or, he didn't mean it like that, or blah, blah. And I'm just saying, you know what, we justify a lot, and we rationalize a lot of what he does, and we excuse his language all the time. And I'm just drawing a line on this one. I'm not going to excuse it. It's not okay. It was absolutely insulting to the thousands of people that were involved in the rescue efforts. It was just silly and irresponsible. And so, I don't spend a lot of time criticizing his every word, because he says a lot of really dumb stuff. But this has a lot of meaning behind it. That has a heavy impact. This is not just like criticizing some senator and calling them dummy this or whatever. This is actually talking about people that, like I said, went above and beyond what anyone ever asked them to do, out of the goodness of their hearts, and they risked their own lives to save others. And it's just disgusting, period. I don't think there's much more to say than that.
Yeah, I don't really think there's much more that we should say about that either. Dude, what the heck happened with Twitter today? So I'm going through, because I haven't really, like I said, I haven't had a chance to look at much of anything. So I'm seeing all this stuff suddenly start to pop up about Dana Lesh. And some moron who I'm not even going to give out their @ has a picture of, it looks like it's from South Park. It looks like the mom and Cartman were playing with like water guns or something, so they're pointing guns at each other. And he's like, rare picture of D. Lesh homeschooling her kids. Really? I don't think I want to be on this planet anymore.
I mean, they love to hate Dana, And I mean, I get it. For a lot of these men, she is an outspoken, strong, fairly aggressive female who does not back down, who will not cower, and will not apologize for her beliefs. And they think they're the wrong beliefs. And so that makes it double threatening. But I don't care what people say, and I don't ride that sexist train, and I don't call things that very often. But there is a twinge of that here when it comes to people like her. And I do think that there is a very real thing about women that are very independent, very outspoken, and very adamant, and that they won't apologize for their beliefs, and they won't apologize for speaking up and speaking out. And there's something very threatening about that, and there's something that rubs people, not even just men, the wrong way sometimes, and makes them enemy number one. And Dana absolutely succeeds with this, which I love. I mean, I'm like, sure, get him, girl, whatever. But they, in turn, do really disgusting things to her, which a lot of times she litigates, because she is not afraid to use the court system in order to punish people that have stepped over the line, which I also, kind of like.
Yeah, and I mean, she's actually probably one of my favorite people on radio right now that does a national show, because I've gotten to the point where I can't listen to most of the national shows, because they're all just completely. They've gone either completely for or against Trump, and I'm still sitting here trying to be in the middle as much as I can and be like, you know what? I can't really go one way or the other. I mean, I'm starting. Well, I was. Now I'm kind of pissed about what he said about Texas, but I was starting to lean a little more that way, only because I'm starting to feel like we don't have an alternative again. Because the thing about it is, everybody that I see that, like the TDS folks and the resistance folks, they're talking about throwing in with Democrats and socialists just to make sure that Trump can't do anything else, and then they think that we're magically going to turn it around somehow. Their logic doesn't make any sense to me. But there's a reason I wanted to open with that sentence, because speaking of people not doing things logically, apparently Sean Hannity stepped in his own stuff on his show last night.
Oh no, what did he do now?
Entertaining. Well, I'm pretty sure, I haven't heard the audio, but I've seen people talking about it, and I tried to listen to the audio today, but then I had to start coaching, so I had to go back into the classroom. So I'm pretty sure he decided to have the what he thought was going to be a funny idea to remind all these people that are being investigated by Mueller just to do what Hillary did and bash their phones with hammers and remove the SIM cards and use bleach bit on them and whatever else they could do. So, of course, the left came unhinged and was like, when somebody on national TV starts telling witnesses under investigation how to obstruct justice live on the Sean Hannity show, my first thought was, well, he basically just told them to do what Hillary got away with. What's the big deal?
I mean, I don't think there's anything to being like, oh my God, he's telling them how to obstruct justice. I think he's, stupid for saying that and being like, oh, well, just because she did, we should too. I hate that kind of thinking, so that's why I would object to it. And also, like you said, it does sound, from the little I saw too, that it was done in jest, like, well, why not? Just get rid of the evidence because that's what the Democrats do, so go ahead, But, of course, they would lose their mind over it. And as dumb as he is and as stupid as that was to say, I guarantee you there'll be several people that are going to try to actually find a way that they can turn this into legal action against him.
Oh, I'm sure they will. They're probably on the internet with some shyster lawyer right now. Dude, what can we do? We've got to be able to get him. Now we can get him off the air. I'm like, yeah, probably not going to happen.
He threatened the Republic. Don't you know? They'll just go super dramatic with it.
Again, I don't understand how we got to this point, because nobody can get along for anything anymore. I mean for anything anymore. They just can't. It's like we can't even come together to decide, that the idea that countries are now euthanizing children that have tested positive for things like I can't think of the name of it right now. Down syndrome. Even though the test is only like 60% accurate, in countries like Iceland, as soon as they force the test on the parents and they force them to get rid of the child.
Okay, well, here's the deal. Here's the thing about Down syndrome. They keep calling it eradication, as if it's polio or tuberculosis or something, or even an actual genetic disease. It is not. It is a chromosomal issue that is not genetic, and that, like you said, is not always as easily predicted as they may want you to think. And so by saying that you have eradicated it is actually not true. When we cure diseases, that's what allows us to eradicate it. We have not found the means by which to prevent the chromosomal issues that create that go along with Down syndrome. We have not been able to prevent that from happening, nor have we been able to correct it. Therefore, humans, no matter what country or what ideology, have not figured out how to eradicate it. All they have figured out how to do is to abort those who present it in Euro testing. And like you said, the testing is not always extremely accurate. I have a cousin whose daughter was given very slim chances if she was highly recommended to abort. She talked to several specialists. Her and her husband were just adamant that was not the route they wanted to go. They found another specialist out of MD Anderson in Houston and spent a lot of time traveling to him and him traveling to them because he thought he could do a few things in utero that would help bring her to a more normal term pregnancy to where they could deliver and then take it from there. And she was given all these grim diagnoses. And yes, there were some procedures in utero that were successful, and there were some procedures after. But the implications were that she would be highly restricted and have all these problems for the rest of her life. And she's a thriving 4-year-old who has not had procedures since she was an infant in the neonatal ICU. So, and everyone was so ecstatic that they were wrong. They were right about what it was. They were wrong about how it would turn out. And so what if she had just said no? And here is this beautiful baby girl who plays with my son and is just a delight and as smart as can be and can run and jump and dance and everything. And most people, most of the ones that are educated, the experts, the specialists, told her it was a lost cause and to abort. We never know. So, and to pretend like we do is like I just find it so arrogant. We're not God.
So I have a bit I want to add to that, but we're going to take the break. When we come back, I'm going to give you, I'm going to remind you of something that someone who was a pretty avowed socialist brought to everybody's attention using a show called Star Trek. And it's this whole idea that we're talking about right now. We'll be right back. This is Jen and Rick. We're going to take a break. Peace and bills. See you in a bit.
My son was in the Army back during Desert Storm, but even then he wanted an MBA. He looked at a dozen schools, but only one offered the online education and flexibility he needed while he was in a tent in Iraq. Grantham University. Turns out that Grantham's been delivering affordable, relevant college and advanced degrees for over 65 years. Heck, if they can deliver a quality education to a soldier in a tent overseas, think about the flexibility Grantham can offer you so you can earn your degree too. It doesn't matter how complicated or full your life is. If getting a degree is on your bucket list, you'll want to do what my son did. You'll want to call Grantham. Find out how easy it is to get started on your education so you can check that college degree off your bucket list. Call Grantham right now. 800-910-1370. That's 800-910-1370. Flexible, affordable, relevant. Call 800-910-1370.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Attention business owners and independent contractors. This is a money-saving message from Tax Mediation Services. If your business owes $20,000 or more in taxes, we can help you today, right now. Listen, dealing with the IRS is no picnic. It's an intimidating and extremely stressful process, and you don't want to go it alone. Our attorneys know every law, every tax break, and every possible opportunity to help you resolve and reduce your tax debt. And if you owe more than $20,000, you may be at the top of their hit list. So don't take your tax debt lightly, because it will not go away on its own. The IRS can seize your bank accounts, your home, and even shut down your business. Call our tax experts today at 1-800-783-0810 and let us deal with the IRS while you focus on your business. That's 1-800-783-0810. Again, that's 800-783-0810.
All right, folks, welcome back. This is Jen and Rick. We are live right now on KLRNradio.com, where liberty and reason still reign. Want to remind you guys, after this show, I'll have everything reset. We'll launch America Off the Rails right here, same channel, same usual time when I can manage to fight off allergies and a million other problems that have been going on this week. But I do have a guest with me joining me this evening, so I do encourage you to check that one out. Chad Alexander, locally here on KOKC 1520, is going to be joining me for the hour. We're going to talk some local stuff, then we're going to talk some national stuff. Maybe I'll ask him his opinion on what Trump just said about Texas. I don't know. He's an Okie, so he may not care, but I have friends in Texas, so meh. Anyway, so that being said, back to what we were talking about before the break. We were talking about this crazy idea that we suddenly have that we can get rid of a disease by eradicating the people that carry the disease instead of actually trying to eradicate the disease. So my problem with that, and again, I'm digging in the Wayback Machine a bit. I'm reminded because, a lot of these concepts seem to come from like authoritarian and socialistic tendencies, but there was a very devout socialist in Hollywood in the 60s who actually came up with a TV series called Star Trek that's launched several spin-offs, several movies, and one of the major concepts of that whole series is that, it's basically a socialist society. Earth has evolved past the need for money. They've come together. They've worked to make humanity better. But one of the things that always astounded me about that is they would go to other places. And one of the episodes that I always remember a line from this. Anytime I hear somebody talking about, well, we're just going to get rid of it by getting rid of the people that have it, I'm reminded of a Star Trek The Next Generation episode where Geordi LaForge, who at that time was the chief engineer for the Enterprise, had beamed down to a planet that was a colony of clones, and what they had done is they had basically genetically outbred all disability. So people like Geordi wouldn't have existed, because for those of you who didn't ever watch the show, he's blind. The only thing that allowed him to see was a piece of technology that was basically neurally implanted into his brain and actually sent signals from the visor into his basically his cortical receptors, or for his eyes, and it allowed him to see electromagnetic imaging. So that was the only thing that allowed him to see, and those people were looking at him like he was some sort of an atrocity because they didn't have that type of stuff on their world. And he pointed out that, necessity becomes the mother of invention. It was his visor that allowed him to devise a way to save that entire planet. They wouldn't have even had that they didn't have that technology there because they had gotten rid of any reason to have that type of technology. So what concerns me about something like you had just said with the Down syndrome scenario, instead of us actually trying to find a way to treat the people that have it, find a way to make sure that maybe they don't have it, or see if there's a way that we can correct it, or use some sort of technology to make their life as good as we can possibly make it, we're eradicating the people that have it instead. So we're robbing people of a chance to live just because of the fact that they're different. I mean, for those of you who have not met me, I have a lazy eye from an injury. I also have a limp from an injury. What concerns me when people start making statements like they're making now in Iceland is there's going to come a time when people are going to decide that people like me have no value. Because as far as they're concerned, I can't contribute to society even though I've built several businesses.
Well, that's exactly right. Their point about, infants, children, and then adults with Down syndrome and allowing them to grow up that way, they take the position of more of that it is cruel to them. It is cruel to them to make them come into this world and live that life struggle. They view it as a struggle. They view it as a burden. And no one's pretending there aren't challenges, and more so than maybe an average person has. No one's pretending it can't be hard, both on the person with Down syndrome and the caretakers. But there are lots of Down syndrome, and there's a variety of severities. But there are lots of people that go on to live independently that are able to, fulfill themselves with various degrees and certifications and have little specialties that they can do. And they get married and they fall in love and they build homes and they attend church and they go on missions and they provide all of this goodness for the world. And partly because of their affliction, because they were born with Down syndrome, you tend to find them, and I'm overgeneralizing here, but I've known quite a few, and we have lots of friends. You and me in particular have several friends that that have children that are Down syndrome and deal with them daily. And and they provide such innocent, sweet joy and such a view of the world unlike any of us can achieve with our cynicism, with our realism, and overall with our totally rotten humanity, our totally rotten souls, that they can overlook. And I just think it's such a shame to treat them and to treat Down syndrome as if it is a death sentence or some sort of problem that is, I don't know, just some sort of struggle or some sort of terrible thing that you are condemning them to, that you would go and need to relieve them of that by not allowing them to have a freaking life in the first place, which is just so ghoulish to me.
I don't understand it. I really don't. I mean, because, and I'm going to be honest, I actually know people with Down syndrome. They are some of the happiest, luckiest people you're ever going to meet in your life. They enjoy life to the fullest. I see one of these people almost all the time, and they are constantly smiling, constantly happy, and we're looking at them like, you don't deserve to be here. If anything, half the time I'm looking at them going, man, I wish I could see life the way that you do, because you are constantly in joy of everything that you see and everyone that you meet. I really wish that we had some of that innocence. And they're wanting to eradicate it because life is too cruel for them to be here. I don't understand that, because some of the people that I know with disabilities are some of the better adjusted people that I know, because they realize that they can't go do everything, so they find a way to find something that makes them happy, and they stick with it because it makes them happy. They're not always out chasing everything. They're not cheating on their wives or their husbands or chasing dollar bills or working till 4 a.m. or out hustling the streets. They're just doing what they do because they know that it makes them happy. I don't understand how we can decide that an entire group of people has zero merit because they have a disability.
Well, it's placing value, right? They decide what the value is on that life. And for them, the value is not good enough. Their contribution, their quality of life, they always go back to this quality of life thing as if they're being compassionate. And it's just so gross to me the way that they do that. They try to act like they're the ones being compassionate by not subjecting them to this more difficult life, and not subjecting them to the cruel world, not subjecting them to the physical and psychological struggles that they may encounter. And I just have such a hard time not being utterly disgusted with people that actually think that this is a good thing. And there are a lot more of them than you think. And they actually think this way. And I'm just going to guess that they have not spent a whole lot of time with various people that have disabilities, particularly chromosomal disorders like Down syndrome. And you know what you were saying about what they do, and they find a thing that they can do. The other thing that they do sometimes is they are told no, or they are told that that's not really something that they can achieve or that they should go for, and why don't you stick to this or stick to that. And people with disabilities prove others wrong every freaking day. And it is such an inspiration. They overcome, they find a way, and they chase dreams that had previously been thought, no, someone with whatever ailment this is or whatever disorder this is just really can't do. They invent things to be able to do things that people tell them they can't. I mean, their contributions to this planet are, I just think, immeasurable. And it's just so sad to me that they've deemed them basically just trash, willing to be thrown away, willing to be cut out, sucked out, cut up, and discarded as human waste. It's really, really, really disgusting and sad.
Yeah, no, I don't understand it. All right, so one last topic that I wanted to get to, because we're going to have to wrap a couple minutes early to make sure I get things set up since I have a guest. So, certain newspaper did it again.
Uh-oh, what?
So there's a story that's been going around all day, and I'm pretty sure, I don't remember exactly which newspaper it was, so I'm trying to find the actual article again. But anyway, so it started trending again because there was a newspaper that put out a story about a Tennessee hardware store that put up signs about no gays allowed. Of course, they started recirculating the story after the recent narrow, supposedly according to the media, decision from the Supreme Court. Well, it turns out this is a story from 2015. And yet they're pushing it around today as if it's brand new.
Yeah, I heard about that a little bit. They're like, oh, because of the ruling, people think this is okay, and it's popping up in small-town America everywhere. And it's like, no, there's one picture, and it's from one restaurant years ago. Whoop-de-doo, you freaking outrage machine. Crazy people.
So, yeah, apparently it was USA Today who originally put out the story. There were some folks that decided to start recirculating it today, making it seem as if it was fresh. USA Today actually came out 9 hours ago and said the No Gays Allowed story many are sharing today was originally published in 2015. USA Today has not shared or updated it since then. Claims suggesting that it's a reaction to the recent Supreme Court ruling are false. So I guess USA Today stepped up and said, hey, whoever started to circulate this again, it wasn't us. We didn't want them to do it. We haven't even talked about this story in 3 years. So, yay, fun times.
Well, that is good. I'm glad that they said something.
But, I mean, the thing, I don't understand it. So I guess everybody started talking about it again, even after USA Today put out the tweet. And they're like, and then like David French and half the other people of Blue Check Mafia fame are like, everybody knows this story's from 2015, right? And everybody's like, well, it doesn't matter. That's like the whole thing. But you know, I still hear or see people all the time talking about how Donald Trump is putting illegal immigrants into cages, and there's all these terrible pictures, and they're still latching on to all these things that actually technically happened under Obama.
Because the pictures from the Obama
were just being
era
circulated
are
again.
just driving me crazy.
And they're all like, look how bad Trump is. This is what he's doing. No, this is what Obama did. No. They specifically said this is happening under Trump. But those pictures are from the Obama era. Where was your outrage then? Well, this is all, your whataboutism is terrible. We're not talking about that right now. We're talking about Donald Trump and the terrible things that he's doing to immigrants. And I'm like,
but
okay.
It's actually not whataboutism when you're using something that's from another administration.
You would
that's
think.
not whataboutism. That's what happened was kids were in cages.
I mean, you would think. That's like everybody making the jokes yesterday about, oh my God, Donald Trump freed a black woman to get the black vote, and it's not going to work. And everybody's like, well, he only did it because it was a political point and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, dude, she was in jail for 20-some-odd years. Why didn't Barack Obama do it? And then somebody's like, but he commuted almost 2,000 people's sentences. And I'm like, you're talking to me like I don't already know that. But my specific question is, since you guys are making a big deal about apparently it took a racist, homophobic, bigot, orange-dusted Cheeto guy, Nazi dude to do this, and you don't like it because he did it, where was Obama? Why wasn't this one of the sentences he commuted? I would have much rather seen this than Bradley Manning. Saying.
Nobody wanted to see Bradley Manning. So, I mean, nobody still wants to see him. Just a few little weird circle of people that they can all go play, in the corner by themselves.
So the weirdest thing, and I know you know who he is, but Gay Patriot Bruce was actually kicked off Twitter for a few days for calling Bradley a traitor. They banned him from Twitter for calling Bradley a traitor.
Is that what it was about?
Yes.
I was so out of it this weekend, so I didn't get to see. I noticed he was gone, and then he said hi when he was back. He tagged me in something. So I was like, oh, crap, I even missed that you weren't even here. I'm a bad person. I'm a bad friend. But it was because I was so busy this weekend. But I haven't gone and kind of dove into why he was removed yet. It was because he called her a traitor.
Yeah, he called Bradley Manning a traitor, and Bradley Manning's sycophants took offense to it and mass reported it and got him suspended.
Mm-hmm.
Never mind the fact that you weren't pardoned, your sentence was commuted, therefore your charges are still legitimate, and you were charged as a traitor.
Right. You're lucky that on the federal level, we're just not really on, we just really don't have the stomach to dole out the death penalty for traitors anymore. Not on that level. You got to actually do something that truly terrifies everybody for you to actually be executed by the federal government. But you just be taken out back and shot. Probably no trial.
So I kind of honestly sometimes wish we would return to that. I'm just saying. Now, one other thing, because I realized I haven't really had a chance to... I think we did talk about this. I did talk about the fact that I finally sat down and watched the Dinesh D'Souza movie. That movie just really freaked me out, because I'm a huge history guy. And I was going through some of the things that he was talking about, and I even researched them after the movie was over, and I was like, there's no way. That's like the whole Margaret Sanger speech. The first speech that she ever gave was at the Daughters of the KKK, or Women of the KKK. I'm like, there's no way that could be true, because why would the Democrats, even Hillary Clinton to this day, talk about this person being a role model for her if her first speech that she ever gave was in front of a bunch of racists? I thought our party was supposed to be the racist ones.
Right.
But every time...
Well, they're not big. They're not big on, number one, honesty, and number two, genuineness. I mean, they don't really care. I mean, when it comes to their stuff and their things and their people, excuses are fine. They act like it's no big deal. And they just kind of brush off anything like that you bring up because, oh gosh, just get over it. That was something stupid a long time ago. But there was other good in them. However, conservatives have no good in them. They're all evil, and they all are racists and bigots and sexists and all of those things. But Democrats can do really, really bad things. But then because they agree with them ideologically, they can be like, but they're a good person because they also did this and this and that. So you can't just look at the bad things about them. Overall, the good outweighs the bad. But when it's a conservative, that's never true. That's the irritating part.
Wow. So I didn't see this, and then we should probably start wrapping up. For those of you who used to watch Sons of Anarchy when it was around, Alan O'Neill actually died at age 47. He was one of the stars of Sons of Anarchy. Too many people are dying way too young. I'm only 45, damn it. When I read a story about somebody dying at 47 and I look at their picture and they look a hell of a lot healthier than I do, that makes me really, really nervous.
A lot of people are dying really young. I mean, recently, we just had found out about Kate Spade, fashion mogul, pretty much, purse designer that apparently took her own life. And it's just, especially in the celebrity realm, it just seems like it's just too prevalent. Money doesn't make you happy, folks. Fame doesn't make you happy. You've got to find other ways. You've got to find it within and with your loved ones.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. And, I'm not going to mention any names, but I've been having that talk with some people that I know recently, because I know certain people that it seems like no matter where they are never happy. They moved to a new place a few years ago. They thought it was going to be great. Within 6 months, they weren't happy. They've moved back to where they came from. It was awesome for 6 months. Now they're posting all their business on social media all the time again. And it's one of those things where it really comes down to it. You have to find a way to make sure that you yourself are happy, because it's not about where you are or what you do. It's about you. It's like my granddad always used to say, in the beginning of the day, if you run into an asshole and that's the only one that you meet, then that person was probably an asshole. But by the end of the day, if everybody you're running into is an asshole, you're probably the asshole. So when you look at the common denominator, when you move to place A and within a couple of months you're miserable, so you move to place B and within a couple of months you're miserable, so you move to place C and a couple of months you're miserable, so then you move back to place A because by the time you got to place C, you're looking back at place A like, oh my God, that was the best time we ever had, and 3 months later you're miserable again. The common denominator in that scenario is you, not the plays.
Yep, that's exactly right.
All right, so we need to get out of here because I got to get things set up for a guest because I got to call him and stuff while we're on break. So I need to be ready to and make sure I actually get started on time for once. And I know I'm really, really bad at that. Ron, not a word. But why don't you remind folks where it is that they can hang out with you when you're not on the radio hanging out with me?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at jhomestead, Facebook JR Homestead, and check out misfitspolitics.com. And tomorrow night, as usual, is Misfit Mischief.
Yep. I'll be there as I usually am, at least for a little bit of it. I usually get in towards the tail end and throw a couple of shots in there. All right, folks, that's going to do it for this particular episode of the Jen and Rick Show. Hope you guys have enjoyed your week. This will conclude our broadcast week on this show. I'll be right back with you here in just a second for America Off the Rails with my guest from KOKC Radio, 1520 AM out of Oklahoma City, Mr. Chad Alexander, who does the ride there every 3 to 6 p.m. So that's right. We got somebody from Drive Time hanging out with us for the hour, and we'll be back for a double shot of Robinson and Wright, and then probably America Off the Rails tomorrow night. You guys take care. God bless. We're out of here.